Today is day 23 of the Arukh HaShulchan OC, and we are doing today Siman Yud Aleph Sif Beis through Sif Yud, if I recall correctly. Yes, and as we always say here, V'ad Bichlal. So the base. Before we start the base, let's get something clear in how we make wool for tzitzis. Of course, you have to shear the wool, clean the wool. And then when you take the piece of wool and make it into a thread, that's called tevia. That's when you spin the wool, like the old pictures of the women with the spinning wheels. They are making wool or cotton, whatever they're making, into strands. Those are threads. Okay, shazira is the net where you twist threads together. I call it yesterday spinning, but that's not correct. Technically, spinning is actually the making of the first thread, and then the combining the threads together. It's kind of like a weave, and that's why shazur is translated as weave, but it's not really woven yet into the garment. It's into a garment. It is making the strands a kaful arba with 4 strands, kaful shmona with 8 strands, making a thicker thread or a thicker string. So now, base. The tavui b'shazur, the spinning of the wool into thread, the shazur, and combining the strands of thread into the larger string. They have the same halacha. So just like tavui, the spinning has to be done. The shman kamoshi's bar, like it's going to be explained. If not, it's invalid. Shazur also has to be the combining, twisting of the strands together. Also have to be lishma. Some poskim like this, like Mukhe Yosef. The Rambam does not require shazur at all in tzitzis. This is what he says. Whether it's the right strings or the blue strings. If you want to make them shazur, you make them. In other words, theoretically, a single thread, even though it might be very, very thin, is good enough, right? So if you want to make shazur osef, and even if you made a thicker string of 8 strands of a shazur, and you twist them together, until they became one string, it's still considered one string. It says Arukh HaShulchan, seems to me from his language, he's trying to say the way the Rambam says is you're allowed to have shazurim. In other words, we don't say there are many strings here, more than the shear. Then okay, no. The kulan chut echad not considered to be one string because they're twisted together. The chut same shazurim. Ervin says here it's like Vavam base. It seems that the strings of tzitzis are always shazurim. They're always twisted together. It's true, they used to do this with Ne'ahidor, because it's more mahudar, because the strings are thicker and nicer. Because it's an obligation. Nearly Riled Varb, and the Arukh HaShulchan brings evidence for the Rambam. Miyuma, Shadorish V'kitzet Psilim, and Miyuma Beis, the Darshans, the pasuk that you should cut the strings. Psilim Hari Arba. The word Psilim is plural, so therefore we learn, and it says we learn from this that it's pasil and psilim. Not sure. It makes 4. Rekan arba. How so? Klomar meaning psil would be achas. Psilim, since it says psilim, that's trade. That's 2. But kitzeit some, and you cut them. Hari arba. That's 4. Alma the psilu rak achas v'lo shazura. So we see here that a psil is a single strand and not one which is twisted together. Yinzeh amin on sham. I ain't chummed at that because that's the discussion there. The things on brackets. V'arayvit istigal of the Rayvit disagrees with the Rambam. Chuvasel chachmei lunio, and the Rambam's tshuva, which to the sage of Lunio, which is brought from the Shevia Kesem Mishnah. Kesem Mishnah brings down Eino Maspekas God's insufficient. Okay, that's why they pushed off the Rambam. Fimash Kosafti Osi Shapir Veduk. Here it's interesting. Arukh HaShulchan says the Rambam's tshuva about what he meant is not good enough. But the Arukh HaShulchan's logic for the Rambam saves the Rambam's day. Okay. Gimel. If a rope poskim chokim alav, most poskim argue in the Rambam Sfilu, and they require hold the shuzurim huli kuba. You have to twist strands, and it's impediment. Nam the Inyan lishma in terms of lishma, mashagam miloshin atur. It sounds like the tur also direct to biyam akevas lishman. Only the spinning has to be lishma. Lo shazir, not the twisting. Shakasa because he writes to you tvuyim l'shem tzitzis. They should be spun for the purpose of tzitzis. Amlo yitvuyin l'shma, but if they're not spun for the purpose of tzitzis, pisulim. Full stop. V'tzarich shu shazurim. So he says, if they weren't spun lishma, they're puzzle. And then they have to be shazur. Mashmaleh, it seems explicit, the b'shazira, aim aki lishma. That in the twisting, it doesn't have to be lishma. V'yoyser nireh, it seems more likely, Torah shazira achar tviyah. Shazira, twisting comes after you spun. Became what you talk about kol chut lishma, since you spun, or kol chut lishma, since you spun every strand lishma, mimele v'ada shazira, havik lishma. So the shazira, which follows, is automatically like lishma, because it's just combining strands, which are made lishma already. The dasari shayna huoisa, because you follow your first intent. Yesh mechor makim b'diavad gam below shazira clown. There are chronim. The Brim Begadim brings down in the name of others. Are mekel b'diavad if one has no choice, even gam below shazira clown, even without twisting whatsoever. Okay, the rope utzorchim. It's not sure. It says Arukh. Okay, the rope poskim cholkim. Since most poskim argue on this. But this is for sure. If they were not twisted lishma, yeshli smoke b'vad amitam, because we can certainly rely on the reason that the Arukh HaShulchan gave before to say that it's not an impediment in the kashrus of the tzitzis. The Bir Halacha, he's not sure if shazira has to be lishma or not, and Arukh HaShulchan is also unsure, but he says that we have it certainly. You can rely on the poskim to say shazira does not have to be lishma. Dalit. Kasser Rabbeinu Ramah b'sif Aleph. The Ramah writes the Yesh Machmin I feel an apsa lishma. Some people say that when you take the wool and you card it in order to make it suitable to be spun then into strands, that also be lishma. But the minhag is to be lenient in terms of the carding. That's the end of the quote from the Ramah. Even though some Machmir says they didn't mean you. They didn't really mean it. It's not essential. It's not essential. Because that's the language of Mordechai. Shekasav, that he wrote as follows. Kasam Aram, the Maram Nuremberg writes, Yesh Lachmir. The not paints as a tzemer shel tzitzis lishma to card the word tzitzis lishma ayin sham. Shekasav chumra ba'alma. Well, it's just a chumra. The bedina vada efshar. You can't say that this is required according to halacha. Why? The niputz is only to remove the dirt from the wool. So therefore, how could it be lishma? In other words, you're not doing anything to the wool itself. You're just removing the dirt. The Maharal writes that since it says you should make tzitzis juxtaposed to don't wear shatnez. Shatnez who shua tavui v'nuz. Shua here means to clean, and I think it's called the comb. It might be called the cotton comb, but it's the same process. Kind of removing the seeds and dirt. Here removing the dirt. Anyway, to card and to spin and to weave. Also the carding has to be done lishma. Says because the Maharal says so, you should be machmir because included in shua, and shua is part of shatnez, and since this is linked to shatnez. Hey, kesat via lishma. How do you spin lishma? You say you say the beginning when of your spinning. Shul Hashem tzitzis, they do it for the purpose of tzitzis. If a woman's spinning, Yomar law, you should say to her tefilli tzitzis latalis. Spin to the tzitzis for a talis. Bir Halacha says she also has to think lishma. I'm not sure the Arukh HaShulchan agrees. The Arukh HaShulchan says that stam das is whatever she hears. But he Arukh HaShulchan says, Koshking Sheba Atma Amerisking. Certainly when she herself said it, it's good enough. It's certainly good. Shamar K, when a person says it's Apilu Gamar Tatvia, even if you can complete the spinning today, and when Yichel left it for tomorrow. We say that even tomorrow, he continues with the same intent. But if you only said it at the end of the spinning, in the middle of the spinning puzzle, so you don't say that the end is proved the beginning. In this case, we don't say all is well that ends well. There is no difference in what you're doing in making the strands. It's spinning like all spinning. So therefore, since there's nothing different or strange in the process, you can't say that strange knetch at the end is enough to say the entire, that strange knetch at the end was done lishma. The whole thing is lishma. There is no such strange knetch. It's a tefillah called tefillah. So echno marsha kavanah so yel shem tzitzis. How can you say it's kavanah for the purpose of tzitzis? Blishum gilu das shas ma'isa, without any revelation of his das at the time that he is doing the job. For Rabbi we already explained before the Simon Reishain of Sifidav. The Bedavar Ruchani, in a spiritual thing called Rada Likdusha, like bringing something down to holiness. I guess bringing holiness down to something. Ikar B'tchilas HaMaisa. It's a theological point here, metaphysical point. Bringing down Kedusha requires, the Kedusha comes down at the beginning of the process. And that's when you have to have the intent Lishma. Shamanis Bayer, and there it's explained, and we are there. One of the ancients, this topic, the Bechol Davar Lishma, and anything has to be Lishma, Ibn Dafka Dibor, or Dai Machshava Bama. You have to specify it explicitly, or it's enough to think. Rosh Sham, from the Rosh, it seems, Mash Malahedi of the Mahai, that it does work, even when you think it. Shekasa, why? Because it writes Tov Shia to Bisvasim. It's good to express it, but not necessary. The Mishnah Berurah argues. Mishnah Berurah says that you have to say it explicitly, not just think it. And I feel with the Eved, he's not even sure with the Eved if Machshava works, since it's a case which could be a suffix d'oraisa, so therefore one probably should be machmir in this case. See Vav, Rabbeinu Beis Yosef Simon Beis, because Rabbeinu Beis Yosef Simon Beis, Beis Yosef writes, Tivon Kuti, if a non-Jew spins the thread. A Jew is standing over him, he should make Lishma, Rambam Pasul, Rosh Kosher, Akalshono, Achlokas Rambam Rosh. The custom is that the Jew should help a little bit. These are the common Simon Lamed base. If you're there, Simon Reisha off. Gabe Tefillin Sefer Torah. Something similar is stated by Tefillin Sefer Torah. I'm not sure what it is offhand. Akalshono. I'm astounded at this, says Arukh HaShulchan. What does that have to do with, I guess the case over there is working the parchment, Lishma, and therefore Goy can do most of the work as long as some of the work is done by Yisrael. I understand by leather when you work into parchment, that whether the Jew helps a little bit in the tanning or the processing, there is in this leather, because it's one piece of leather, to be a lishma. And even if it's just part of the process, that's good enough. Each strand is independent when you're spinning tzitzis. My man is too excess, the mashit v'achaka. Well, it's a little bit of assistance to one strand, help for the next strand. Came with the Rambam, akum adaitin avshekovid, because since according to Rambam, the non-Jew does it on his own intent. So what he spins afterwards is shul lishma. Also, according to the Rosh, there is no evidence from the tanning. Which evidently takes a short time. From Mina, we say Shoyisel Das Yisrael. He does it for the Jew with the Tviyah to spinning which is very time consuming. It takes a long time. I found great people. They're unsure. Bedin Zeh in this halacha. Mishnah Berurah writes, the B'shas Adchak, you can lie in the rush, even without help from the Jew, even just by Omer al Gabav. He's standing over him. And the help is only to make it better. But the halacha qualifies that if the spinning takes a long time, then Omer al Gabav does not work. Evidently, I don't know what the look time is. It's not specified here. Whatever that is, because eventually the guy is not doing the spinning for the purpose of whatever the Jew is thinking. So it's prime. The Arukh HaShulchan goes down and says, if a deaf mute, a person who is not sane, and a child spun the thread, puzzle. If a Jew is standing over them and instruct them to lishma, that's okay. That's kosher. And the Mishnah Biur says that's only if there's no other choice. The chatchila, it's better not for the cheir shayt v'kartu to make the tzitzis. It says in the brackets here, I'm going to have Avram, Sivkon the base, Kosev Shetali, but Plukta the Simon Top Samach, Sham Kaim Lon La'akel. He says, Mechloikas, Simon Top Samach, which trends be lenient. I don't know what that is. Zion. We came in the Tzitzit Tzarech Dafka Lishma, since Tzitzit has to be specifically Lishma, Mochen Amotzi Chutim Bashuk, somebody find string in the marketplace, Hafilaim Shazurim, Umuvsaki, even they are twisted and cut. Psulim. The possible Lomri the Bad Hashem Tzitzis now, so we don't say with certainty they're made for the purpose of tzitzis. To lie Torach l'shem chudim ba'alma. Maybe we went through this process just to make strings in general. Chaim b'sakaram perk beis gabei tchelas. This Rambam sak vis-a-vis tchelas. Because of bo, but he reneged v'chshe b'shu zuin muvsakim, and he said that it's okay if it's bow shazer and muvsak twisted and cut. Moshka Samuel Sif test Simon test Sif Yidav Ayin Sham. But that's only by tchelas. Miulin and Lavan. And until it comes to the white strings, Ein Lachshir. We can't say it's kosher if you found it. Even cut, twisted and cut. The dafka b'tchelas, Yishalai could say, he wouldn't have gone through the effort. Imla Shalol Shem tzitzis if it wasn't for the purpose of tzitzis. Aval Lavan also, but white people will make for many purposes. The Mishnah Berurah brings down that the Rambam was close to Machshir, but that there's no does not differentiate between Tchelos and Lavan. But it does bring down that the Quran says that the Rambam, the Arukh says the Rambam, and he write the way he wrote the first time, that you can't use it evidently even by Tchelos. So says to continue the Arukh HaShulchan Kain Kosev Rabbeinu Beis Yosef Sof Simon Chaf Ayin Sham. So the Beis Yosef writes that it's only by Tchelas but not by Lavan. Ches. Kvaris Bar, we already explained the Tzrichim Shazir, you have to twist. In these Parka Chutim Shizos, and therefore if the strings become frayed, as often happens, from their twisting, if initially they were twisted, only from two strands, the dakim, which was thin, and the sparkle, and they came apart, all 8 strings. Now so now there's 16 strings. Psulim. It's no good. Because the twisting has been nullified. Unless you know the Rambam that shazira is not an impediment. If there's enough to make a loop in the length of the tzitzit, which is still twisted, that's still kosher. But I've got a siman yud beis, and even though siman yud beis is going to use bar, it's going to become clear. Where all the tzitzis have been cut. The yeshua means lo mani candy, but that the length which you can tie a loop is not sufficient. But here, in this regard, that's where it's cut. In this regard, we can add on the opinion of the Rambam as a sniff l'hakel, because the Rambam holds she'en makim is not impediment. Also, only one string became unraveled. It's not a problem. After there was 3 or 4 strands twisted together. Oh, yoser, or more of them, sparkumat, and they frayed a little bit, unravel a little bit. It's also not a problem. Then become yisharu because nevertheless there are 2 which remain together. In other words, 1 or 2 unravel, but 1 or 2 is still shazer. Maybe we'll say that you're over about toisif because you're adding to 8 strings. No. Baltais is when you intend to be Moisiv on the mitzvah. bit of a chiddush. And you not intend to as a mitzvah here. V'gam atah einu mechamim zekan. Also now it unraveled on its own. You had no kavanah. So it's interesting. The Mishnah Berurah says, in order not to transgress Baal Tosef, you should say explicitly that you're not happy with the fraying, or that you should cut the strands which have become loose. Raising Mishkasav says, I saw somebody wrote the Chazer v'Shozron. If you twist them again after you come untwisted, Havi Tasim V'Lo Min HaMosli, the Psulim. This is the fourth time he quotes the Mishnah Berurah. Is this the Mishnah Berurah says that if you came and if you went and spun them back and twist them back then it's possible because it's maybe made in the garment, not before it goes to the garment. So it's Tasim V'Lo Min HaMosli. But says Arukh HaShulchan says in this regard, this would be Tasim, so we can rely on the Rambam that they don't become puzzled when they become unraveled in any bed. Because for the Ramah said it's best to tie the strings at the end so they don't unravel. In this way they won't the twisting won't fray. Means that most of our ksharim is not adding on to the ties. To the knots, because it's obvious it not doing it as a kesher of the tefillin, but rather kadesh lo yisparkle, but only that they shouldn't come apart. I am a sifyut ches, which Mir Hashem will be tomorrow's, I think. Test mitzvah tzitzis likach arba chutim arukim. The mitzvah tzitzis is to take 4 long strings, the tolchvam knaf taos, and stick them into the corner of the house. And remove them from the hole on the other side. They'll come out to be 8 strings. And you should tie them with 2 knots. It's a double knot. And then you should wrap one of the 8 strings, which you made longer than the rest. And you wrap it around the 7 which remain with a little bit of that string. Zanikra Gidil. That's called Gidil. Gdilim Taselecha. Klamashigodlam biyachad. You wrap them together. Sharachutim Migdil Lamata, and the strings which are from beyond those wrappings are called Pasil. Pasil is the string itself. The Pasil Shakol Shachol Chutu Bivneat, it's when every string is bonzo. Koshetirham Unklus Al Pasil Techeles. He says about Pasil Techeles, Chuta dit Chelta, a string of Techeles. How much is supposed to be wound and how much is supposed to be free is going to be explained. This in all 4 corners. The time there was tcheles, he's going like the Rabbeinu Tam. That time there were 2 white strings and 2 blue strings. Rambam 3 and 1. If I recall correctly, could be mistaken. I thought according to the Rambam, 1 out of 8, and according to the Ravid, 2 out of 8. This would be the Ravid Shita, but maybe I'm mistaken. That's what I do in my tefillah. So I have 1 of the 4, which is 2 out of the 8. And you use the tchelas in order to make the wraps. Now that we don't have tchelas, all 4 strings are white. Zay Karal Shell Tzitzis, that's the primary mitzvah Tzitzis. Yud calls them a first B'Torah. It says make Gedilim on 4. Gedil Shnayim, Gedilim Arba. Right? It says Gedil would be 2, Gedilim are 4. I say Gedil with Haslim Mitocho, make the Gedil and take the strings out from in it. The Pachas Mishnayim Yev Shali Korei Gedil. If it's less than 2, you can't call Gedil. The Ein Chibur Pachas Mishnayim has no connection with less than 2. Uksiv Gedilim says Gedilim Arekan Arba Chutim. So the Gedil is to wind. I need 2 to wind. So Gedilim means 2 times 2, which is 4. Uksiv Arba Barkun Fos Ksuscha says in the 4 corners of the garment. Bechol Kanaf Arba Chutim. So in every corner there are 4 strings. When you double them, I raise a shmoina. That's 8. From the Torah say Gedil, Torah says make a Gedil, this wrapping, Baslemi Tocho. And that the strings come out of the wrapping. Shutun Psulim, Psilin, that the strings will be hanging, Klomar Chutim, meaning the strings. Shlo Yaseh Kulo Gedil, should may all be like a lanyard, all tied up, all wrapped up. Ktsas Gedil, Ktsas enough. A little bit wrapped, then a little bit free falling. And the Psil Shel Parashat Tzitzis, that's the Psil. It's mentioned in Parashat Tzitzis. Mizemevor, it comes out. Shel Miktsas Achutin Yagedil. Part of them should be wrapped. Miktsas Psil, part of them free falling. B'nei Torah ain't kuv kam Yagedil kam Psil. Arukh HaShulchan says Midoraisa, there's no chiluk how much is Gedil and how much is Psil. You can do it any way you want. The Chayei Adam, Bir Alocha, says that at least the size of a loop of free strings should be present midoraisa. Okay. Back to Arukh HaShulchan, it says Melchim Kach Ruba Kosher. Sure, even if you made most of it wrapping, it's kosher. Hefach. And the opposite, I feel Kach Ba'elchli Achas. Even if it only did one wrapping, meaning not one wrapping and another not kshera. Ach noit tzitzis, but the way tzitzis looks hudar, looks resplendent for the person mitzvah. Sheshlish gadol, that a third should be wrapped. Ushnei shlishi onav, 2/3 free strings. Gemara noit cheles ayin sham. The Gemara says in reference to noit cheles, v'achshav noit lavan kamuvan, and now obviously it applies to the noit of the white as well, or only.